You all know this dude. That's Joe Kennedy. That's the high school football coach that was like, I got to pray at midfield, even though I'm on the clock as a public high school football coach. And then I know I said this earlier, but First Liberty took his case to the Supreme Court. Neil Gorsuch wrote the opinion that lied about the entire case, and that's why he won. And I just want to, if you can't remember the specifics of the story and the ruling, Neil Gorsuch said, in his opinion, that Joe Kennedy was initially fired for praying on the football field. He was not fired, he quit. He resigned. So that was a lie. Neil Gorsuch said Kennedy's prayers were quiet and personal. They were not. Like, there are pictures in the dissents of these giant midfield spectacles after games, because that's what Joe Kennedy really wanted, attention. Neil Gorsuch said Neil Gorsuch said Kennedy's prayers were not coercive. In fact, there's testimony from the students on the football team like, yeah, we were pressured into joining the group and praying. So Neil Gorsuch lied about the facts of the case and then said he just wanted to pray. It's fine. So we'll give him a victory. That's the real story of Joe Kennedy. Okay. Well, guess what? Now everyone's going to get to see a version of this story because it's turning into a movie. Average Joe. The trailer for this movie, a hagiography of Kennedy's life here, they just released the trailer. Surprisingly, I don't think this is released by PureFlix, but it's the same producers of the movie. And again, before I get to the trailer of this thing, I just want to remind you that after Joe Kennedy won that case in front of the Supreme Court, Neil Gorsuch said the ruling in his favor was necessary because that was the only way Joe Kennedy could get his job back at Bremerton High School in Washington State. And so after Neil Gorsuch said Joe Kennedy wins, no one actually knew if Kennedy would return to Bremerton High School because we already knew he had moved to Florida years earlier. Was he really going to return to Washington for a part-time coaching gig when he could have just as easily ridden like the Christian persecution circuit and make bank by like speaking at churches all the time? Like, do the Kyle Rittenhouse method and just go church to church. They'll love you. Was he really going to go back? And Kennedy was like, you guys, I totally want to go back. And as soon as the Supreme Court decision came down, he's like, I submitted my paperwork. Everything's going to be fine. And there was a delay. And then finally, that summer, the district said, we got his paperwork. We're working on reinstating him. And then, like last year, he was officially back on the team. And like, it's high school football. They start practices in the summer. They start their games when the school year begins. And after the first game of the season, what was interesting is, well, he finally got what he wanted, right? So after the game, he went to midfield. This is actually the first game of the season for Bremerton. There's Joe Kennedy in blue after the game. He went to midfield. He prayed. And I don't know what he was expecting, but I think in his head, he thought there would be standing ovations everywhere. The crowd would swarm the field, surround him in prayer. And the reality was none of that actually happened. Like, he went there, but it was actually a brief and quiet prayer because no one seemed to care. No one surrounded him. No one really wanted anything to do with this guy because really, what is this guy at midfield doing up here? He is taking attention away from the students who just worked their asses off to get on the varsity football team. And it's their first game of the season. A lot of them are like seniors. This is their final year of playing football. And all the attention is on this guy who doesn't care about the students, who just wants to show up. And the thing is, the media covered this for obvious reasons. This is what he wanted. This is why they fought to the Supreme Court. This is why he wanted the victory. So they covered it. And after that, they're like, well, if this is all he's going to do, we don't really care. There's nothing else to write about anymore. Everyone just seemed exhausted with Joe Kennedy. The last thing they wanted to do was feed his ego like all these Christians were doing. And I think Joe Kennedy realized that because guess what happened like just a day or two after he did that? Here's the headline from the Seattle Times. Praying Bremerton football coach Joe Kennedy quits. Claims retaliation. Look at this. In a resignation letter obtained by the Seattle Times, Kennedy said, "It is apparent that the reinstatement ordered by the Supreme Court will not be fully followed after a series of actions meant to diminish my role and single me out in what I can only believe is retaliation by the school district." Just stop there for a second. What did they do? I just showed you the picture. He went to midfield after the game. No one stopped him. So how did they diminish his role? How did they single him out? How is it retaliation? He didn't offer any specifics. Why? Because the school gave him everything he wanted, but no one cared because this guy's an asshole and not a hero. And he realized that, I think. And so he's like, you can't, I'm not going to stay here. I want to go back to Florida. It's friggin' October in Washington State. Of course he wants to go back to Florida. And you can see this too. He gave no this is the Seattle Times again. He gave no indication of such feelings in an interview last week and declined to go into details Wednesday. "I knew it wasn't going to be a picnic, and it wasn't," he said, adding that his role and responsibilities at Friday's game were not what I signed up for. "Yeah, buddy, because you're an assistant football coach, so you have a lot of assignments in terms of taking care of the students." That's probably what, like, I got to go to the locker room and take care of kids. I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to pray at midfield after games and to have all the cameras on me. And he got so mad when all the coaches are like, "Dude, get back in the locker room and help these kids." He's like, "I didn't sign up for this." So, of course, he quit because it was never about students. Like, everyone who said this guy doesn't care about kids, we were right. He quit. Okay. So, by the way, you know what is also funny about that resignation letter? Joe Kennedy posted a copy of the resignation letter on his own website, but it's different from the one the Seattle Times got. This is the one that was posted on Joe Kennedy's website. And I just want to show you, he says a lot of the same stuff. But look here at the bottom. Like, "As I've demonstrated, we must make a stand for what we believe. I made a stand," whatever. Look at the last paragraph. His new book, Average Joe, the Coach Kennedy story, is available in October. It tells the in-depth story about his battle. Like, it's an advertisement for his book. Up here, he's like, "As a result of this case, we all have more freedom. That should be celebrated and not disrespected." And he's like, why did he resign? He cited multiple reasons for his resignation, including an ailing family member out of state. What's the story here? Did he quit because he had to take care of a family member, or did he quit because the school disrespected him? It's all a lie. None of these people are able to be honest about this stuff. And again, in this press release that is still up on his website, it's just an advertisement for his book. Okay, why do I have to remind you of all that stuff? Because now, this week, years after all this stuff, it's finally time for Joe Kennedy to cash in. Okay? Because nothing he ever did was actually inspirational. But now, you know, I just want to repeat this for a second. He was not an inspirational dude. He's just a coach who used a position that could be inspirational to make it all about himself. And I've said this before, but I am a high school coach myself. I can tell you from experience, it's not always easy. It is a sacrifice. You don't make a lot of money doing it. It takes a lot of time, but you do it because you love the activity and you love the students you work with. You do it because what you get out of it should be more valuable than a paycheck, right? That's what any coach of anything would say, I would think. And when this guy used his platform to advertise his religion, he made it clear he didn't give a damn about the students. And when he returned to coaching, every critic was like, "This guy doesn't care about the kids." And then as soon as the game was over and all the media went away, he's like, "I quit. No one's paying attention. It's not about me anymore." Like, yeah, you confirmed what we were all saying about you. So his story is one of not religious persecution. It's about his Christian selfishness. And that is why the team that's behind God's Not Dead sees this as like Jesus jackpot. They are now making a movie about his life. And here is look at this. This is on Fathom, which basically it's a company you can pay to get your film in theaters across the country, like a pay-per-view type of event. And look at their description. And I think this is provided by the people behind the movie, not the company. I'm not mad at the company. But like, read through this. It's amazing. High school football coach Joe Kennedy has always been a fighter. He had no other choice. Abandoned by his mother. Oh my God, I don't care about his biography. After retiring from the Marines, Joe felt led by God to help coach high school football. I'm going to pause for a second. You know why they included this whole bit about his biography? Because if they just focused on him as a high school football coach and what he did there, it would take 2 minutes. But they got to build a 2-hour movie. So they were like, let's talk about his life before he lied to the whole world. So that's where this like, here, let's talk about his childhood and his time in the Marines. Okay. Yep. Joe was fired. No, he wasn't. For praying silently. No, it wasn't silent. By himself. No, he had a crowd around him after the games. Oh my God, these people can't even tell the truth in a description of him for the movie. And I know you're all wondering, what is this movie? Can we see the movie? Well, we'll get to that. I was looking around because I wanted to see like who's behind the movie. And I was waiting for the screenwriter to be Neil Gorsuch, given all the ways they are lying about this. Turns out Neil Gorsuch did not write this movie. But the trailer is amazing because I'm going to summarize some of this for you. It suggests that Kennedy himself wanted this case to go to the Supreme Court. And his wife is like, oh, no, we can't go to the. You want to go to the Supreme Court? And he's like, I can't stop. Not now. Even though it was a conservative legal group that made that decision for him. And even though the Supreme Court is 100% on his side and they're like, give us this case. We want this case. Like, none of this makes sense. This is like a totally made up version of his story. Okay, you want to see a clip? I will show you a clip. Let me pull up one of these things. Here is the first version of this clip, or part of it.
You to pray in the locker room.
Do you not see how absurd this is?
Nobody cared for 7 years. Now they do.
I bet you can guess where this is going. I believe they violated your rights.
You're appealing to the Supreme Court?
I can't stop. Not now.
It's been 3 years of our lives turned completely upside down.
I know that's a short clip, but I promise you the rest of the trailer is all fluff and has nothing to do with football. But again, I just want to point you to the fact that in that clip, he's saying he's going to take this to the Supreme Court. Like, that's a courageous thing to do, even though everyone's on the same team. Him, his lawyers, the Supreme Court, they're all on the same side. And his wife is acting like it's a heroic decision, even though there's nothing heroic about it. Ridiculous. And I just want to play you one more clip from this movie because I couldn't get it out of my head. You ever see the movie Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino? And he has this like catchphrase, hooah. Well, here's Joe Kennedy for no reason. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Here we go.
Hoorah.
That's it. I don't know what that is. Is that just a thing he does in the movie? I don't get it. But that's your trailer. Like, this is all how Christian movies work, right? I know that there are movies that are based on true stories and they exaggerate or they omit facts or they highlight certain details for dramatic effect. But Christian movies, they just straight up lie about this stuff because they have to. Because if you told Coach Kennedy's actual story of what happened, it would undercut the narrative they are trying to promote and that they are trying to sell to Christian audiences. So anyway, this film is scheduled to be in theaters starting in October. I don't know how many theaters are going to host it. I don't know how long the theatrical run will be. My guess, since it's a Fathom event, is it'll be in theaters for like a week or two, and they're going to try to get churches to go see it. And then it'll go straight to, on demand on some streaming site somewhere. But like, based on the trailer, I have no reason to think it's a good movie. God's Not Dead is the one exception to that rule where it looks stupid, but it really did sell a lot of tickets. And so did God's Not Dead 2. And then they dropped off precipitously after that. But this one doesn't look good. You can find the trailer online. It looks horrible and it lies. about the very premise of this case. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. What other questions we got here? Why does he want to pray on the field? Why not in the locker room? Well, as we said earlier, conservative Christians only like to pray when everyone else is watching them. They don't want to talk to God. They don't want to pray in private because they know they can't Instagram that shit. They have to do it in public so everyone knows how amazing they are while they are horrible people in their private lives. That's what you learn in church, I assume. Did he expect a warm homecoming after costing the district probably hundreds of thousands to millions in legal costs? Yeah. I 100% think he thought he was going to be a hero, and everyone in that district was so sick of his shit that they're like, fine, just let the dude pray. Let's all focus on the next game we got to play, and let's just be done with this dude. We don't care about him. I don't think he was treated as a hero, and so he quit. Because of course he was going to quit. Because as you know from every movie about a great coach, what happens after things don't go your way? You leave the kids and let them fend for themselves. He wasn't going to stay. He doesn't care about the kids. It's a Marine thing. Really? What? Quitting and running? No, I don't think that's what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying. But yeah, like, I don't know what he thought he was going to get. I think he thought he was going to get a standing ovation, and then he realized everyone hated him. It's like Donald Trump when he goes to like a normie crowd and they're all booing him. Like, he's not used to that because he's so used to putting himself in front of audiences that just tell him he's amazing, that when he's in front of an audience that's not doing that, oh, oorah is a Marine thing. Thank you, Den. Did not know that. It still sounds weird. But yeah, like, they all think they are heroes in their own worlds because they never expose themselves to people who are not. On the other hand, people like me are constantly getting trashed by all of you in the comments, and I subject myself to that all the time. So I know you all hate me, and I'm better off because of it.